order the Planning and Zoning Commission of Wednesday, April 6th, 2022, at 7 p.m. The Planning and Zoning Commission is an advisory body of the City of Ames, the Planning of the City of Ames Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission members are volunteers of the community and not part of the city administration. The commission is responsible for the preparation and adoption of official comprehensive plan of the city. It gives advice and recommendations on matters involving amendments to the zoning ordinance, the historic preservation ordinance and guidelines, subdivisions, annexations, master plans, and major site development plans, and developments within the Ames urban fringe areas. As an advisory commission, we welcome all comments and questions. We make our recommendations based on codes, the facts presented, and input from the public. If the procedures become lengthy, we may ask that the comments be focused on new information not previously presented. You may speak only once on an agenda item. If you wish to speak, please fill out. If you wish to speak, please fill out speaker information cards that are on the podium and give them to the recording secretary hiding in the corner today. We ask that you come to the microphone to speak so that all comments may be recorded. Please state your name and address for the record prior to making any comments. The order of proceedings for each item on the agenda will be as follows. City staff will present the staff report regarding the agenda item. Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the city staff. The applicant will be invited to make a statement regarding the request. Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Members of the audience will be invited to come forward to offer comments and questions. Once public comment is closed, city staff and the applicant will have an opportunity for concluding remarks. The commission will discuss the application based on all presentations and any comments given and come to a recommendation with the city council. The discussion may include further questions by city staff and the applicant for clarification. With that, we move on to the second order of business. Introduction of the commission members. We have a couple of new ones here and one absent. And Mike, you see your last name how?
LaPetra.
LaPetra.
Kiana Top.
Mike Clayton.
John Emery.
Ruth Holstrom.
Mike Sullivan.
Okay. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. So passed. Okay, and item number 4, the approval of the minutes of the March 16th, 2022 meeting.
So I just have one item. I think it's just a name correction that looks like it was correct on page 6 for the most part, but there was one where it's the second to last sentence of the first paragraph on that page where it changes from Macaulay to Coley.
Oh,
So just a
yes,
clarification.
Macaulay.
It's just right there. I think it's generally referenced correctly in the rest of the paragraph.
And you want to change it to,
Just to Macaulay so that it matches the rest of that paragraph where she spoke.
oh, okay, I see. You got that, ma'am?
Thanks.
With that one correction,
Move approval as amended.
I second.
okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. So approved. Moving on to the public forum. This is for anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak? Do we have anybody who'd like to speak? Final time. Anybody who'd like to speak? Seeing none, move on to number 6, the election of officers. Do we have any nominations for officers?
So for those of you that are new, there's 2 positions. There's the chair and the vice chair. I will take a nomination for chair first and then vice chair after that. The responsibility is to really run the meeting. If the chair is gone, the vice chair steps in to run the meeting. That's the 2 roles that we have on the commission.
Do we have any nominations for chair?
I would nominate Michael Clayton if he's willing.
Sure.
I'll second it.
As chairperson, sorry. I should clarify, as chairperson.
Okay. Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
For chair.
Seeing none, you're it.
Okay.
Do we have to vote, Kelly?
We need
They
to
will take a
vote,
vote,
okay.
Yeah.
No, you're by acclamation. No opposition. Unless I'm wrong on the Robert's Rules of Order.
I didn't check that one before I came. So I think we just do a vote to be safe.
Okay.
Okay, nominations for vice chairman.
Oh, no, we have to do a vote.
I think we should let's just do a vote,
Let's
John, on the other one because I don't know for sure which way the rules work. So let's just do a vote on chair first.
Vote for the chair first? Okay. All those in favor
Aye.
of this mic?
Aye.
Chairman, say aye.
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 Opposed? Tag, you're it. Does he take over now or?
You can. Yes.
Why don't you finish up today and I'll be watching.
All right. We'll do that.
I don't know about that. Okay. Nominations for vice chairman. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Kiona.
Are you declining the nomination?
I'm declining the nomination. I'm moving this summer, so
Oh.
I'm declining the nomination.
That's fair.
So I guess I nominate you, John.
Who?
You to be the vice chair.
Okay. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Final time. Any other nominations? All those in favor of me being the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Yay.
Item number 7. Public hearing for the annexation of 2219 and 2121 State Avenue. And
Yeah. So I'll be. Did it ever log in? Okay. We're having a network issue apparently, so I can't bring up the location map. But tonight you're asked to make a recommendation on an annexation for state property on State Avenue. I wanted to say that. So tonight we have a voluntary annexation for about 10 acres of land. It's commonly referred to as the Curtis Farm. ISU is developing a feed mill on State Avenue. I'm sure you've seen that if you've been on Highway 30.
Mhm.
They desire to bring sewer service up to serve their facilities in this area. So in combination with doing a sewer extension, the city of Ames asked them to annex this property. It'll make a uniform boundary then along the west side of State. It's 100% voluntary and staff supports moving forward with this annexation.
that's it.
That's it.
Okay. What are the benefits for the city of Ames?
Consistency with our policy to provide sewer service to development within the city limits and not outside of the city limits. There's no other ramifications to any.
We will not have any taxing authority over them.
We have no jurisdiction or taxing authority over the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa, yes.
Okay.
ISU is a under the regions, which is under the state of Iowa, so it's the state of Iowa. Much like all other situations where ISU owns land in the city, other than interfacing with our utilities and infrastructure, we don't have any jurisdictional control. There's no taxes paid in response to land that they own in the city.
Okay.
Kelly, can you just, so in terms of the current land use and then the Ames urban fringe plan, can you kind of describe, I guess, that the in terms of that urban service area, what that is, how that's defined, I guess, or what uses?
So well, it's not really relevant.
It's not.
So as state land, it won't be relevant. In the current fringe plan, the older designation is urban service area, which means no division of property can occur outside of the city. It should be annexed before there's division. So it's consistent with that concept from the old land use policy plan and the current fringe plan. And then as part of Plan 2040, we don't really use that urban designation any longer. It's just shown as university property. There's natural areas shown to the south, but we don't have a distinction directly between urban service area and other designations within Plan 2040. When we do the fringe plan update, there will be a little bit of a distinction there, but right now it is how it is currently in the fringe plan.
Okay.
From a land use perspective, it doesn't change the state's ability to use it.
And they can use it pretty broadly.
You can use it for any function consistent with state activities.
Okay.
Do they pay for the utilities extension? The water?
Yeah, so
and
they're
sewer?
building a sanitary sewer service essentially because it's large and long. It'll be built more like a public main, but it will not be a public sewer. It will be intended to serve the ISU facilities.
But other than being able to draw a straight line on a map, there's no benefit to the city.
There's no benefit or downside to it either way. It's again being consistent with our policy that we provide sewer service to facilities that are located within the city and not outside the city.
So I assume the alternative then, if they didn't come into the city, then they would need to have a rather large septic field maybe?
I can't talk about how their operations work.
Yeah.
I mean, they operate now. It's not a new building. The feed mill's the new building.
Mhm.
So I don't know what their sanitary sewer service needs are if there was no sewer connection up to these properties. It's been the plan for a while to extend this, so we haven't spent time working on that.
And with this, Kelly, were notices sent generally to some of the adjacent property owners at all?
200-foot notice from the annexation area.
Anything else?
Nope.
Do we have an applicant? Or is the city the applicant?
We are not the applicant. ISU is the applicant. They have one representative here, yes.
I think.
Good evening. I'm Paul Fellini with the Facilities Planning and Management Department at Iowa State. Kelly captured our request for annexation correctly, and thank you for the opportunity to present it to you. I would just clarify a couple of things. The feed mill and grain science complex project itself is already on university property within the city. So that facility is within the city limits. South of that project is the 2 parcels of land that we're requesting the annexation. And then south of that is an existing city sewer line that we would like to tie in our new feed mill into. So it has to cross these 2 parcels of land to get from our feed mill to the existing city sewer. So it will allow us to, as you correctly note, build that facility without having to rely on additional septic fields. The two parcels that are being annexed, the buildings that are there right now are on septic service. We would like to, in the future, take advantage of the new sewer line, connect those buildings to the new sewer and get them off the septic system. And there's already an existing city water line in the area that will be able to tie in those buildings and get them off a water line. So overall, I think we are doing a benefit in the sense that we're getting out of septic fields and tying into the established city sewer system. Yes, any other questions?
Is Iowa State going to do anything to capture? I know with the feed mill, there is quite a bit of runoff.
So I mean, so John, that's not really relevant to annexations. We're not here for a site plan review,
Okay.
or would we have any review authority over it?
And we wouldn't have any control over it anyway.
Correct. So we're just here about annexation, nothing about site planning or building plans.
We do have our own stormwater permit. We have to comply with a state level stormwater permit that we do have to comply with, yes.
Anybody have any questions of the applicant?
No.
Okay. And, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any members of the audience would like to speak on this subject? Any members of the audience, would they like to speak on this subject? Any members of the audience would like to speak on this subject? Seeing none, we'll move on. Any discussion between the commission?
I don't have any major concerns. I guess it makes sense. And given that this area obviously, you know, is kind of fairly close to what you might consider an island, like it's kind of headed in that direction. So it makes sense that for uniform boundaries to go ahead and bring this in anyways. So I don't have any major concerns.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of alternative 1, that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends that the city council approve the voluntary annexation of 2 properties, which include State Avenue right-of-way totaling 10.79 acres of real property located immediately south of the Ames corporate limits at 2219 and 2121 State Avenue in Washington Township, Story County, Iowa, by finding that the proposed annexation is consistent with the Ames Plan 2040 and Urban Fringe Plan, and that the annexation will recreate uniform boundaries by eliminating a peninsula of county land.
I second.
And you'd second it?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. So it passes. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Public hearing for the rezone with the master plan for 82 Delaware Avenue.
All right, thank you. I'll introduce myself. I'm Justin Moore. I'm one of the planners in the planning department. So I'm going to walk you through the application here for the rezoning there that you can see requested at 802 Delaware. The owner, Penny Lane Townhomes LLC, is making the request. Justin Dodge with Hunziker is representing them. This is a request to change the zoning from the current low density designation to a medium density designation here at this location. You can see there, it is a 3/4 acre lot that is basically sandwiched between North Dakota Avenue on the east and Delaware Avenue there on the west. And Delaware Avenue is where it will and currently does take its access from. To kind of go over some history here, in 2020, the city council approved under the old land use policy plan a land use change to this property. that changed it from a low density residential designation to a medium density residential designation. They did that in support of their goal, which was to encourage infill development and look at ways of doing that, which they did put into the new and current Ames 2040 comprehensive plan. So the new comprehensive plan takes the land use designation essentially a step further. And there were new land use designations that were given to properties across the community. And so what you see there is the current land use designation in the neighborhood of Rn2. And it might be a little difficult to see. But right there is the outlined in blue is the property in question. So the Rn2 designation, and I'll get into this here a little bit more in just a minute, does provide the framework to support rezoning the property from low density residential to RM, which is medium density. So in conversations with the developer, they have indicated that they do intend to develop the property into approximately or roughly 6 units of residential housing, which they intend to do in 2 3-unit attached structures on the site. So there you see a little better colored in view of the site there. So to kind of to get back to the underlying justification for this, the Rn2 category in the new Ames 2040 comprehensive plan has some guidelines. It has some characteristics that it would look for here, and so those are described in your report. But I'll kind of run through them real quick. So this type of neighborhood where you see the Rn2 designation, which is reflects the current conditions of this neighborhood, would be the type of neighborhood that was developed in the mid to late 20th century on up through the very early 21st century, where it would have filled out, so to speak. So the Rn2 land use designation has criteria in it that emphasize when you do infill projects, making sure that they fit the fabric of the existing neighborhood, fit the feel, the design, and that you don't have densities that are wildly out of proportion, obviously, to what already exists in the area. And one of the characteristics, or rather the goals of the Rn2 land use designation, is that infill development doesn't exceed 6 units per acre. So what you see here, the proposal is for 6 units in this particular case. The master plan that is proposed does have on it there some, it's kind of hard to read, my apologies. The master plan does have the proposed density down here at the bottom, the acreage there, the dwelling units that are seen there, which they do indicate in the 6 to 8 range on this particular document. Obviously, our condition and stipulation is that it will not exceed 6 units, and we believe that that's key to guaranteeing that the density obviously follows the 2040 plan, the comprehensive plan, and is reasonable for the neighborhood. The city council, upon approving the land use change 2 years ago, did require a master plan for this very situation, because you have contextual sensitivity here, where you have a lot of single family homes nearby. You also do have a mix of 2-family homes across the street, and then some smaller apartments further to the north. So at this point, I can take any questions that you might have. There has been no site development plan formally submitted to the city. That it will be yet to come in the future upon any approval of rezoning, and the site plan will, of course, need to meet the parameters of the master plan.
As I understand that, in 2020, we voted this down.
I
You mean the recommendation to the city council was not to do it? I do not recall.
That's what
It was, it was.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the meetings. I don't remember the final recommendation.
But I think, we were working under different rules, and the 2040 plan has been adopted by the city since then. And I think that was part of the discussion last time in 2020.
My recollection was for staff, the main issue was whether to do it in advance of adopting a citywide policy
Mhm.
or to let that happen as an individual amendment.
Yes. I think
So
that was
the
my
amendment
recollection, too.
happened, but then the plan caught up before they ever got to rezoning anyways.
Then
That's what I remember the discussion.
The
That's
city
least-
council approved it anyway?
Yes. They saw it as an opportunity to move forward with it as a new idea, new concept to test how it works. And like I said, and they didn't move ahead with zoning. Justin Dodge can speak to that. So they've caught up now to Plan 2040. And now we're kind of consistent with the initial change that happened almost 2 years ago.
But after it was approved, nothing happened on the property and
Correct. Nothing's happened since the land use policy plan amendment.
Kelly, just a quick question. So you have the two conditions here under alternative one with I shouldn't say Kelly, but Justin, maybe he can speak to this, sorry. But you were saying that the master plan calls out 6 to 8 units per acre. Is there, obviously that's kind of discussed in the staff report, but in order for that to be confirmed, would it make sense to add a condition saying not to exceed 6 units per acre or 6 units for the site for the master plan?
Yeah, it's meant to be 6 for the site.
Yep. Okay.
Right.
But since the master plan has a range, would it be good to clarify that if we were to potentially move alternative one? So add a additional condition.
Yeah, right. Like that.
Yeah.
6 is the max. 6 is the number that it needs to max out
Right.
at to match the minimum. Does it minimum density and to match what the max of RL would be?
Okay.
any other questions of the city?
Directly to the north of this parcel is an electric station, isn't there?
There is a substation just to the north. I don't think it's the immediate abutting property. I think it's the one further north.
Yeah. So you have.
Single family house.
Yeah, it's really hard to see. There's a single family home to the north and a single family home to the south. Then across the street are 3 duplexes or 4 duplexes. And then just to the north of that single family home is a city property with a substation on it.
Any other questions for the city? Ruth,
Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
concentrating real hard.
I know.
Okay. We'll go with the applicant.
Well, good evening, everybody. Justin Dodge, Hunsaker Companies, 105 South 16th Street. Yeah, 2020, you had asked or basically inferred what happened here. The pandemic happened, and they were scared to death of what was around the corner. And so they froze up and said, we're not doing anything on this site until, we get through the pandemic and feel better about things. And so a few months ago is when we started working with the city again on different site plans and trying to figure out what this might look like. Feel like we've got a solution. And so that's why we're back in front of you. We've got some concepts that we can share. I think that would be extremely helpful. So as Kelly and Justin had mentioned, 6 is the minimum and 6 is the maximum that they're proposing. That's the same as what we're proposing. So we just wanted to do 3 townhomes on each side of an access. Initially, we didn't want to have the access carry on over to the parking and then the fire truck access to North Dakota, but there's always a balancing act between all the different departments of the city, and this is what satisfied all the requirements. And so, like I said, more of a look into the future, so that way it's not just looking at boxes on the map. Let's see, so if I remember right, these are 3-bedroom, maybe 2.5 bath with a 2-car garage attached. Justin, if you would throw up one of the concepts of, let's go with the exterior elevation. I think that might be more helpful. So Dick and Rena are really focused in on having something a little bit more modern for these townhomes. And so these are some concepts that we've been working with and proposing to city staff. So, like I said, the site plan and the concepts of the elevations are not on the docket for tonight, but we certainly want to share kind of what Dick and Rena are hoping to do with the property. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to.
Justin, I'm just curious, just given kind of, again, the existing neighborhood characteristics, were those kind of taken into account? Because these, understand definitely the developer, property owner wanting a more modern look, but just having driven around that area, don't feel as if this would necessarily fit in with that existing character in the neighborhood. And again, I understand this is purely, the rezoning that we're, considering this evening, but I guess, I guess I'm having some difficulty seeing this concept and realizing that it definitely seems a bit out of character for that area. And I don't know if that was taken into consideration as you guys were developing these concepts.
This property's been vacant for 70 years. It used to have a home on it that was taken down before it was even annexed into the city of Ames. And so believe that this neighborhood could use a little shot in the arm. Believe that this would certainly help that out. If you look just to the west over on Dover, there are more modern homes mixed in. And then even if you went to the east over on Phoenix and Arizona, there's modern homes that are intermixed within more traditional gable roofs.
No, I agree. I just think this is going to be very distinctive because again, you're putting 6, essentially, 2 units with 3 each, so 6 units on a single site. So I feel like it's going to be very distinctive versus like having like a sporadic house here and there that might look a bit more modern. So that's only my my view. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to see and have a different type of housing. I think that variety is really important. So I definitely appreciate that. I do think about the existing character of that neighborhood and putting 6 units on this one lot and what that then is going to look like. So that's all. I definitely understand we're only considering the rezoning this evening, but thank you for providing at least these to see.
6 two-story units. Which is being proposed, right?
Correct.
Okay, not a total of 12.
No.
And this could change.
Yeah, these are only concepts. So tonight, we're only talking about being able to fit six units on this parcel. Yeah. But like I said, when Bolton and Menk had put together the exhibit, when it said 6 to 8, no, 6 is all we plan on doing. It's the minimum, and it's the recommendation for the maximum from staff. And it's in conformance with what was the LUPP and now is the Ames 2040 plan.
So the only reason why there isn't anything built on this already is because of the pandemic. The only reason why there isn't anything built on this already is because of the pandemic.
In between 2020 and now, yes. Yeah. They were all set on moving forward, and then the pandemic, and they were very, very concerned if people would stop paying rent on some of their apartments and then have capital expended on a project like this and be owing the bank without monies coming in. So I think we can all relate to that.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I'm here all night if you need me. Thank you.
Members of the audience, is there anybody that'd like to come forward? And you filled out a little slip? Goes over to her.
So my name is Janet Pear, and I live at 800 Delaware. That would be just to the south of the lot. When I moved here 30 years ago, I could have bought that 3/4 of an acre with my house. And I thought, I'm not going to be here 30 years. What do I need extra land? And so I wish I had them now, because it's turned out to be nice green space for a neighborhood that just has duplexes. That actually, when I moved out there, it was a field. There were horses across the street from me, where they're now duplexes. And so I've watched the neighborhood change just since I've been there. And I've seen the noise and the trash and the parking spaces. And that's my concern about building. This is only 3/4 of an acre, and you're saying that you're doing 6 units per acre. It seems like there's already too many for this lot. And I'm worried about the parking. Right now, the duplexes are parking in front of that lot. I mean, so you start making a driveway entrance there. And I don't see enough space for, if you have 3-bedroom units times 6, that could be 18 cars. Every kid in this town, it seems like, has a vehicle. And I'm just looking at nobody across the street from me ever parks in their garage. They use it for storage. So I guess I think, in my own personal opinion, that Ames is overbuilt with townhouses and apartments. And this neighborhood actually needs more single-family residents there, as opposed to more townhouses. And so I would hope that the commission would vote no as an alternative here. I think there's too many. I don't mind if another single-family home moves in there, because that would go with my neighbors to the north. And actually, that was all part of the farmland there, the farmhouse. Then they built the house that I'm in now as a retirement house. So that all used to be one big farmland in there. So I would hope that we would save some green space. A lot of the people from the duplexes go over there and play in that field now. It's nice I watch the deer go over there at night, because it's surrounded by trees and bushes now. So it's a good cover for wildlife that come through there. And there's not any fences between my house and the house that's north of there. So there's a nice area there for green space. So that would be my suggestion would be not to build any more apartments on that street. There's enough down the street. And Dover's there. I think it'd fit better to have another single family resident. So at the most, a duplex. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the audience wishes to speak? Any other members of the audience wish to speak? Any other members of the audience wish to speak? The public part is now closed. Okay, city staff and applicant now have an opportunity for concluding remarks.
Can I ask Justin one additional question, or
Yes, you may.
is that okay? Sorry, I'm just curious, Justin. Do you have a target market for these particular units and a price point? I know the market right now for housing is just absolutely wild. And so, like I say, I see this as an opportunity to fill in where there's definitely a need. We definitely have a number of townhomes and apartments in this city. However, again, I am aware of the need of housing and the cost of housing, and new construction is not cheap. And so I'm just curious, I guess, with what you're proposing, if you can speak to that at all.
I've got a little bit of insight on what Dick and Rena would like to do. They would like these to be for basically new families. And so it would not be for student rentals. We're actually building a home for them over on the west side of campus on another parcel that had a knockdown house on it. And so that doesn't even look anything like this. And so this is, like I said, geared for young families. And I can actually speak to what they're doing on the other house, because they're going above and beyond and putting in Marvin fiberglass windows, LP smart siding instead of vinyl siding. I mean, they're putting in nice finishes that are built to last, and that's exactly what they've talked about with these townhomes. So Dick and Rena really put in good quality materials in their properties.
Do you have an anticipated price point, I guess, with these units at all yet?
If you could tell me what the price of lumber is
I know,
going to be,
I know, that's why-
and what everything else is going to be.
That is completely fair. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a crazy volatile market, and I think they're wishing that they would have built these in 2020, because things have gone up quite a bit in that same time period.
So their intent is that these units would be for sale rather than for rental.
They would be for rent,
Well, they would be for rent. Okay.
but for young families. Yep. And so when it came to parking, we had actually talked through this with city staff. And so because there was 3 bedrooms, they said, you need to have 3 parking spaces. So we had 2 in the garage, and then we angled the driveways just a little bit, so that way one of the parking spaces could be in the driveway as well. And so thought that we had solved that. And then we found out that as soon as parking stalls are in tandem, then they don't count. And so that's why we had to add the 6 spaces off on the east side. So, but I don't know too many young families that have 3 cars for the 2 parents and the kids, but sorry, that was below the belt. I'm sorry, Justin.
That access to the North Dakota is just an access for
Fire truck.
fire trucks?
Yeah. So
there's no way that the people can use it?
no,
Yeah, there's no way we'll give a driveway to North Dakota.
correct.
I can't hear you.
There will not be a driveway on North Dakota.
Okay,
It will not be.
because they don't need any more.
And so we did a similar type of fire truck access system over at Sunset Ridge in the 9th edition, where the smart homes are coming out to Lincoln Way. They're actually geo blocks that are underneath the turf grass. And so that whole area would all be grass, but it has the structural integrity for a fire truck to drive over the top of it.
That's the one's just off Wilder.
Yes.
I wondered about that.
But there wouldn't be any physical barrier preventing cars from using it.
The curb.
So,
Okay.
so again, so just to be clear, we're not
Fire
at,
trucks come in.
we're not at site design. That'll all get addressed through development review with the planning
I was
department.
just curious.
Yeah, so we'll deal with how that obstructions work and how fire gets their access and as quick as they need to. It's meant to be an egress, not an ingress, so that'll make it a little bit easier to deal with preventive measures.
And we did the same thing on Wilder Place, I think it was.
Yes.
It's Wilder Place or Wilder Lane, one of the two.
Place.
Yeah,
I
it's
live
just-
there.
You live there? Oh, there you
Yes.
go. But so going out to Lincoln Way, it still has the curb on Lincoln Way, so that way the fire truck can drop right over the edge of that. So,
Don't bother them much.
they're big trucks. Anything else?
Anything else?
I'm good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else from the city?
Nope.
This time, discussion between the commission members?
I guess, again, I'll just reiterate that I'm a little concerned about kind of, and this is, I know outside of like the rezoning specifically, but I am a little concerned about the character of the proposed units that were provided. Just because, again, I definitely understand that there is multifamily, apartments up the street to the north and the school, obviously, but in this immediate area, there's definitely, just more standard kind of ranch style duplexes, things like that. And so, although I appreciate the modern look, at the same time, I do wonder how it's going to look within the context of that existing established neighborhood. And it doesn't seem as if, in terms of specific architectural guidelines, there's really anything. The master plan was submitted with this is kind of the best way to.
So that's kind of the issue is Plan 2040 hasn't got to the next step. And our current tools don't ask for any architectural information. The RM zoning district has no architectural standards whatsoever other than setbacks. So that's why you see the master plan just talking about units and breaking it into two to ensure there's two buildings. As Justin said, there's nothing that mandates anything that you saw on that screen be built that way tonight. So that's why the master plan is also trying to get the terminology correct also so that it's a townhome apartment. It's not a single family attached unit and it's two buildings instead of one. That's the level that the master plan asks for. There's also no site plan or there's no major site plan. That's a little bit of an oddity that if you're on the fringe of the city, you come to the commission for approval of an apartment building. If you're in the middle of the city, you don't come to the commission for approval of an apartment building. So that's how we kind of tried to give you a little bit of background here. As the first one in since adoption of Plan 2040, some of the statements here are hard to fit within the tools that are current here.
Right, and I'd be hesitant to try and condition the rezoning or to establish any sort of design standards specifically, just because that's very tricky. So I would want to leave that to future kind of policy making in terms of how that would get worked out. Again, I understand this project is kind of first through the door, so, but I would definitely encourage the developer to really consider, like, as they're developing these concepts, to think about the existing character of the neighborhood and how to, maybe come to some sort of a middle ground of some sort with the design. Because I like it generally, but again, I worry about the character of that existing neighborhood.
I agree with Ruth on many of her things. I remember right when we did handle this before, we had more input from the public that they didn't want more duplexes in the area, be more single family. And I think that's why we voted it down the first, well, took 3 votes is one of the first ties we had. And finally did come down to
I think
denying it.
the concern though there was that we didn't want to get ahead of what was coming down the pipeline with other policies. So I think that's, as I remember, I
Yeah.
think based on what Michael had said, that's kind of what I generally
Yep, that
recall.
was my recollection.
Yeah, so although we obviously voted to deny it, I think it was for different reasons. So again, I think generally knowing kind of the situation with this particular infill development, it seems like the 6 units is still appropriate density wise. But again, again, we might not have ever been presented with the concept this evening and then they would have just existed. But I just want to make sure I verbalize that concern, knowing that, how the actual design, and then gets built out is going to have a decent impact on the neighborhood.
Any other comments? This time I'd entertain a motion.
I guess I'll go ahead and move alternative 1. The Planning and Zoning Commission can recommend that the City Council approve the request to rezone the property located at 802 Delaware Avenue from RL residential low density to RM residential medium density with a master plan, and to add a stipulation that the site would be developed with at least 2 separate buildings. B, that the master plan is corrected to specify townhome/apartments rather than single-family attached/detached dwellings. And C, that no more than 6 units that, do that over. The units cannot exceed 6 for the site.
Second,
Everybody understands that she added another caveat to it. Do I have a second?
No, we got one.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
Jude,
I said nay.
I can't hear you.
I said nay.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, zoning text amendment for the width of a flag lot.
Right, so I'll present that as well. So what you have in front of you is a request for a text amendment. A flag lot, if you're not familiar with them, because we don't have a whole lot in the city of Ames, is when you take one standard size lot or rectangular shaped lot, and there's a large amount of depth to it, and there's maybe potentially productive use in the deep, far reaches of the lot. So a flag lot is a tool that gets created to allow for a limited width of a strip to access the rear part of a lot. So right now we allow for this. You're allowed to take one lot and divide it one time into a flag lot. We have a 35-foot width requirement, regardless of zoning district. So the applicant, who has a representative here as well, they're in a general industrial zone, which has a minimum lot width of 25 feet. But once you want to divide a lot, the 35-foot standard still kicks in. So they've requested that we alter the flag lot standard as it applies to general industrial zoning, which would then take the access strip requirement down to the 25 feet. Now, as you can see in our commentary about this, there are some factors in our mind that affect this. If you do not have enough width for a lot, you won't meet fire code and you can't build on it. One thing that we want in our subdivision code is to have lots that are usable. That's kind of the basic reason we have a subdivision code. So we think that once you go below 30 feet in width, it gets difficult to meet two-way driveway requirements. It can also be difficult if you have a building to meet sidewalk or landscaping standards as well. So we have some reservations about dropping this down Clearly, we're keeping it for all other zones at 35 feet. So we do have a suggestion that at least allowing for easements. Some of the other examples of places where there is less than 35 feet are industrial lots, but they're shared driveways. Just down the road from here, you have 2 flag lots that kind of pair up and mirror each other, but they have a shared driveway. So the fact that they don't have 35 feet on each lot doesn't really matter because they can meet the driveway standards and fire access that way. So we're in favor of doing the amendment, but having some options with that language that at the time of the proposal of the subdivision, we can evaluate how how we could facilitate the pedestrian access or ensure that the fire code access could be met. At the end of the day, if you create a lot and you can't meet fire access, you have to use it for purposes that don't have a building. That would be the limitation on the property if you can't meet fire access and don't have a water supply for fire protection. In this case, and the applicant can speak to this, they intend to use it for outdoor storage, so they could, in this limited case, probably get by without full access because it would be for outdoor storage. But in general, staff would have concerns about creating lots that just have one narrow range of use and couldn't really be fully utilized. So that's kind of the background on it. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer those.
So the flag lot that would be in the back, that is where the applicant is mentioning that they would want to have a storage area is back there.
Yeah, so
Not
if
in the
you,
front.
on the aerial photo that we have as a location map,
Mhm.
again, this is a text amendment that apply to all properties, but this illustrates the point really well. You can see where they have a little bit of a dirt access road there. They would want to make the access strip have a new driveway curb cut at that location, be able to pass by that building, and then be able to use it for essentially it's dirt stockpiles is what it is for outdoor storage. And the limitation here is that existing building is situated just in the right spot that it can't meet setbacks if we divide it with the 35-foot width requirement, partially because they have some heating and cooling equipment on that side of the building as well. So you can't make a new lot if that would cause a nonconformity. So even though you can make the lot width, we won't let the building not meet setbacks. And so that's what really motivated this request for a text amendment.
And Kelly, can you do driveways right up to the property line then? Is that something the city
So
allows for?
So in commercial and so in commercial industrial zones, we don't have a mandatory landscape separation requirement. You can go up to a property line. There is a possibility that if you're supposed to be 3 feet away,
Okay.
the ZBA can grant an exception if there's an exceptional circumstance. There's some criteria for that. So it's not like in the older codes where we had a mandatory 5-foot landscape strip. Now it's allowed to have, in many cases, no landscaping, but is intended to have a 3-foot separation just to ensure there's not that crossing over the property line with vehicles or other things. But there are possibilities to have that reduced by the ZBA.
Okay.
So all you're asking today is just that we recommend to the council to change the flag lot rules.
Correct. So the distinction is that the applicant just asked for a simple reduce it to 25 feet. Staff is recommending that you include some discretionary language that we deal with potentially an easement on the adjacent property if it's necessary to deal with access needs.
And 25 feet is good for fire access?
Depends. 24 is, it depends. I'm not gonna be able to explain the whole fire code appendix to you, but there's about 3 different numbers. One of them is 26, one is 24, and one is 20. So it depends on the situation.
What kind of commercial vehicles would be moving in and out of this?
It's general industrial. It could be anything from trucks to, essentially it's gonna be trucks going with the current use of the property, it'd be trucks taking material back and forth.
Is there a reason, Kelly, why it was, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Is there a reason why it was set at 35 feet before?
can't tell you that.
No? Okay. I just feel like if
It's,
the fire code says, if the fire code says one thing,
Fire codes evolved though.
true.
The current
also
width of
true.
a fire access road
Yeah.
was not the required width before 2008. So
Oh.
it's not like every code's the same. I think the flag lot standard with 35 feet's been around for a few decades. I don't think, from what I can recall from code research in the past. So it's just one of those numbers that was agreed upon.
Do you know of any other cities and what their sort of, recommend, or what their kind of code width is for flag lots?
We didn't really research that.
Okay.
It's such a narrow issue that we didn't feel
Right.
like it was really worth an effort of researching other codes.
Nope, that's fine. I was just curious.
And there aren't that many flag lots that would be subject to this.
Can you say that? Can you get a little closer to the mic?
I'm sorry. So there aren't that many flag lots that would be looking for a 24-foot.
I don't know
entrance?
that. It would apply to all GI properties going forward. So once the standards changed, I don't know of people that have, no one else has come to my office and said, I really wish I could do this. And I've said, you can't because it's 35 feet. I don't know. No one else has brought that to our attention. So I don't know if it'll get used again or not.
Because basically, when they set these widths, it's because of the turning radius for large vehicles.
Well, for driveway approaches, this doesn't affect the driveway approach. So when the driveway approach and the right of way is approved, that's a different standard under SUDAS that our traffic engineer will review and apply. This is just the private property, the width of the straight part of the driveway.
On a private property.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
How much clearance does this property actually have between the property line and any existing structure?
I'd have to let the applicant speak to that. We've
sure.
looked at that. I just don't remember that.
Sure.
Any other questions for the city from anybody? Okay, there is an applicant for this?
There is.
City? Okay.
It's not the city.
Good evening. I'm Mindy Bringleson with Clapsaddle Garber Associates here in Ames. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing us this evening on this item. I think what we've really found when we went to look at the code for subdividing this parcel is that if we were to do a regular subdivision of this lot, the code currently allows an industrial lot to have 25 feet of frontage along the right of way. So this actually would require a flag lot parcel to be wider than a standard lot, how the code currently reads. The International Fire Code requires fire access that's 20 feet wide. The city of Ames has trucks that have outriggers that they use for buildings that are 3 stories or more. The building that currently sits on this lot is just a single-story industrial building that will remain. It is approximately, I don't have that dimension exactly, but it's just a little over 30 feet of width between the property line and the building. And there are some AC units that are sitting in that area as well. It is currently used as access to the rear of the lot by the property owner. They are desiring to split this off so they can continue to use the rear of the lot as they currently do. And then they will sell the other portion. They have an interested buyer. They don't have any intention on building back there. It would require, water main extension and several other improvements that they're not interested in doing. But I do realize that someday in the future, someone could want that, and then they would have to go through a site plan approval process to meet all those requirements that the city lays forth. But I think the biggest thing that we're asking is that the flag lot requirement width meets the zoning requirement width for an industrial lot.
Any questions for the applicant?
You answered them already. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the city? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll recommend that alternative one, that the city council reduce flag lot access width in the general industrial zoning district as presented in attachment C. And do I need to say what the sections are? Okay.
No. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, a second. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, so approved. Item number 10, commission comments.
I think I
We
already.
can't let you go.
I'm-
It's not
I'm
allowed.
sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you. It has been a pleasure serving on the commission. Glad to welcome in, Mike and Mike. So this has been a fun group, and so welcome to you guys. I'm sorry I'm leaving, kind of, but yeah, again, it's been a good time. So appreciate all of your guys' input and look forward to maybe catching a session every now and again in the future just for fun.
And we'll miss you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Yes, it's been a pleasure working with. You brought a lot of knowledge to this group and really appreciate it. And you can't leave.
Kelly tried telling me that too.
I used an exclamation point, so right, you couldn't ignore me then. I forwarded it.
Any other comments from the commission?
Just a request. I've always said you can never have too many mics. Can we get another Mike or a Michaela or a Michelle?
I'll let the mayor know that's in the request.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And staff comments.
Just to let you know, at our next meeting, we'll probably have some other business too, but we're going to have a discussion item on the Fringe plan update. So one of the first implementation measures of Plan 2040 is to update the 2-mile Fringe plan around the city. Story County has taken the lead on that and we're working with them to do that. So we have a draft of like land use designations and a draft map to kind of walk through with the commission so that you get an update. And we'll go to city council that same update, and then public input will happen in May, and eventually it'll come back to you for an official recommendation, because we're going to treat it as an amendment to the comprehensive plan to clean up or to clarify different aspects in relation to the Fringe plan. So the old Fringe plan will be gone, a new one is coming. Next week is just a discussion. It will not be an action item, or not next week.
Okay.
Next meeting.
So we are having a next meeting.
We are definitely having a next meeting for at least the Fringe plan.
And that's to see if I understand. We're going to expand the Fringe area?
No, the Fringe is ever expanding because it's always 2 miles around the current boundaries of the city. So we do a plan for those 2 miles, and then there's a separate, what's called a 28E agreement, which is an intergovernmental agreement between us and Story County. So that plan deals with some specific details and then delegates jurisdiction out in that 28E. So the plan is really about land use. And in our Plan 2040, we already created what we called urban reserve and the growth areas that we want to grow into. So that's influencing the plan update significantly.
So are we trying to take over some of Gilbert's?
We're not taking over anything. So,
Oh, no.
so that's why we're having a meeting in 2 weeks. So you can get all your questions answered before we get to a hearing. And just wanted to give you a heads up. That's a discussion item.
So I'm missing kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So you can't leave.
I mean, I knew it was coming, but darn.
You can still submit comments once it's public.
I'm leaving Ames, but here's my comments.
Yeah. We'll read it in for you.
I'll leave this for you.
Okay, at this time, I'll,
Move adjournment.
okay, and you are now taking over. So adjourned.
I'll need a copy of everything he says at the beginning of the meeting.